I genuinely forgot to grab this before I hit the record button. My first impulse was to just start over. My second impulse was to run with it. Thoroughly, totally, utterly, absolutely amateur. This is a sipping and talking video, which means I'm going to sip on some whiskey and talk about something. Some of it will be about the whiskey, some of it won't. It's like, if you ain't seen Hee Haw, you don't know what you're missing. They had a segment called Pickin' and Grinnin' with Roy Clark and Buck Owens. I can't remember who did what. I believe Roy did the picking and Buck did the grinning, but I could have it backwards. But one of them would say, "I'm a picking." The other one, "I'm a grinning." And that's where I got the idea of sipping and talking, except they's just one of me. I'm a sipping and I'm a talking. Am I silly? You sure? Oh, good, you're smart. You saw that. So, in order to do the sipping, I have me some Evan Williams bottled in bond. Kind of down, isn't it? This is good whiskey. And this particular bottle, I got it back. Well, let me pour it because I got the lid off. This is a screw top, not a cork. Don't want to spill it. That would be alcohol abuse. And on a serious note, I make that joke. I see nothing wrong with it. But on a serious note, abusing alcohol is unhealthy. It's bad for you. It has deleterious effects on those around you. Don't do it. It's better to be absolutely teetotal than to be a destructive drunk or a drunk at all. But anyway, I got this bottle on the 17th of December, 2025. December, January, February, March, April, May. We're coming up on June. It's taken me about 6 months to get down here. Now, I don't drink from the same bottle every night. I have a rotation. I don't believe I've done a video on that, and this isn't going to be one. But I go through a rotation, so there have been other bottles before alongside this one. I got it at Total Wine, and cost me $19.99. $20 for 100 proof bottled in bond from a major distillery, the largest family-owned distillery in the United States, owned by the Shapira family. S-H-A-P-I-R-A. It's not just my hick pronunciation. It really is spelled Shapira. And that is a nice, dark nose. If you're new to whiskey, you might not understand what we mean when we say something is dark or light or bright. These are not objective terms. The color, it's not especially dark, but the profile of this whiskey is the notes you get from it on the nose, on the palate, on the finish. They give it an impression of not darkness as in the absence of light, but dark walnut paneling. You know, the kind of dark that you'd see in the well-lit library, maybe, of a 700-year-old English manor house. You know, nothing oppressive, nothing ugly. Dark, like dark chocolate, maybe. Except I'm not getting chocolate here. I hope I'm not being too muddy. clear as mud, right? I try to be a little clearer than mud, maybe muddy water. Oh boy. But I'm getting peanut shells, which is standard for Heaven Hill juice. This comes, I believe I said, from Heaven Hill. There's caramel and vanilla. It's a standard bourbon nose with its own specific way of being a standard bourbon nose. There are those who will tell you that bourbon has a narrow range of notes, and Scotch has a wide range. Well, if you're a good enough painter, you can do more with half a dozen colors on your palette than somebody else can do with 50 colors on the palette. Bourbon might have that narrow range of flavors and aromas, but depending on what you do with the yeast, with the mash bill, with the barrels, with the fermentation time, with where the barrel house is at, where in the barrel house the barrel sets, whether you rotate. There's so many variables that you can take all those narrow notes and you can come up with an almost infinite variety. And this Evan Williams bottled in bond, it's like bourbon, but it's not like any other bourbon, if that makes sense. So, what am I going to talk about other than Evan Williams bottled in bond? Well, public speaking. Did you know I'm speaking in public right now? Granted, my wife's asleep in the bedroom. I'm the only other person in the house. I'm talking at my camera. But there are probably going to be at least 2 people who watch the video. Mike Rowe, I don't know which episode, when, anything else, but on one of the episodes of Dirty Jobs, he said, "This is a very important show with literally dozens of viewers." Self-deprecating humor, he's good at it. Public speaking, speaking in public. Dale Carnegie, he's been dead for years, but his course is really in different subjects, including public speaking. Used to say, knock a man down and when he gets up, he will have no difficulty whatsoever in expressing himself. Except Mr. Carnegie said it more grammatically. Mikey likes it. That's good stuff, Maynard. Public speaking is something that terrifies people. It terrifies me. And I have been preaching off and on, including some short stints here and there in pastoral positions, which I have now come to understand that I am not biblically qualified for. Being a teacher, a preacher is one thing. Being a pastor is something very different. It is teaching and preaching plus other things. But it doesn't matter how often I preach, how recently I just preached. I stand to preach and I'm terrified. And that's a very common thing. Dale Carnegie in his book on the subject says it happens to everybody. You might not ever have to speak in public. On the other hand, you may have a channel, which means you are speaking in public. In Ernest Hemingway's story, 50 Grand, there's a part of it that I've never understood what Hemingway was getting at. And you got to understand, Hemingway was writing this maybe 100 years ago, maybe not quite that long, but he died when I was a year old. maybe not even at my first birthday yet. And I'm 66, so he's been dead a long time, and he wrote stories going clear back to the 20s. And in this story, it's about a boxing match and how that works out to the benefit of the main character of the story. The opponent, as they meet in the ring, says, "Be yourself." And I've never understood what he means by that. Who else is this guy going to be except himself? But apparently there's something I'm missing, because the context indicates it's not a flattering remark, nor does it apparently mean the obvious thing. But it's good advice. Be yourself. You hear me talking like a hick? I am a hick. Now, I guarantee you I can talk better than this. And when the occasion calls for it, I do. Egad is part of my working vocabulary. Sesquipedalian is part of my working vocabulary. When the occasion arises, I move into proper English. I still have the Texas way of talking. I might drop my G's here and there, even when I'm preaching a sermon. But I'm always myself. You want to know one of the dumbest things anybody ever does? Strive for a specific look. There are people wearing clothes that don't look good on them, that don't fit them, that make them look absolutely idiots because they're going for a look. You know, wear what you're comfortable in. Wear what you like. If somebody else don't like it, that ain't your problem. That's his problem. Same thing is true in every other area of your life. Just be yourself, for Pete's sake. I was born in 1960, so during the hippie period, say 65 to 75, that's really what the decade of the 60s was, 65 to 75. Cultural decades do not usually match calendar decades. But the hippies were saying, I gotta do my own thing, man. And if you look, go look at some footage of the crowds at Woodstock, and notice how, with some individual variations, I grant, notice how they're all within a certain pattern. I don't know what the goths say, probably not, I gotta do my own thing. But their individuality is the same as all the other goths' individuality. We get people who are rebelling, and they look just like all the other rebels, because they've just traded one conformity for another. Be yourself, man, not just in public speaking, which, as I say, you may never have occasion to do. But if you do, most important thing I can tell you is be yourself. You know, maybe, who knows, maybe there's an argument at work and you decide, I've got this point that nobody has raised. It's important. I'm going to stand up and tell them. Well, who are you suddenly going to talk different and act different? These people know you. If you're faking, they're going to know it. So don't fake it. And don't fake it any other time. And obviously you got to know what you're talking about. Nice dark, cinnamony, brown, sugary, caramelly profile there. Just enough sweetness. Know what you're talking about. The old writer's saying is write what you know. Ernest Hemingway, I've already mentioned him. Oh boy, did he do that. In book after book, he took real people, changed the names, changed some circumstances, and then wrote what they had actually said and done. And he ruined more of his own friendships that way. But that's what he knew. And he was so centered on himself that apparently it didn't bother him too much to make half the people he ever knew mad at him. Well, we don't want to do that. You know, if somebody called on me to speak on the surgical procedure, sterile procedure, I might be able to go 2 minutes before I run out of what I know. I'm not the world's expert on whiskey, but I could go for some time on that, even extemporaneously, you know, just off the top of my head. And I would want to at least make an outline on paper, but off the top of my head, if I suddenly, with no warning, had to stand and speak on it. What is whiskey? How do you make whiskey? What are some different kinds of whiskey? What whiskey do I like? That's 4 points. I could probably spend half an hour at least covering them, because I'm not any kind of an expert, but I know something about the subject. Don't go into politics. That's another piece of advice on public speaking. You go into politics, you wind up other people writing your speeches for you. And maybe, I don't know how this works. Please understand me. I have been in politics almost as often as I have been to Jupiter, and I ain't never been to Jupiter. I'd love to be able to travel there and be in orbit and just look out the window, or even be floating in my spacesuit, look out the visor, and see that monstrous, big planet there. But I'll never have that chance. Nobody in several lifetimes probably is ever going to have that chance. But in politics, you get people writing your speeches, and I suppose maybe you can give the speech writer some ideas. You know, here's my policy on this, that, and the other thing, but I don't want to offend that bunch and that bunch and the other bunch. And so you come out with pablum. And they ain't a politician. Now, I pay almost no attention to politics anymore. But the last politician I know of who was an orator, however you pronunciate it, I've heard both, was Ronald Reagan. I remember everybody swooning over Bill Clinton. Well, whatever else you can say, he knows how to deliver a speech. Excuse me? They said Barack Obama is such an exciting speaker. Yes, Barack Obama, with his mechanical delivery, like a robot. Ronald Reagan could deliver a speech. And he had very bad eyesight, so he would wear one contact. And granted, he went to a teleprompter later. He'd wear one contact, I don't remember in which eye, so that he could see his notes. And with the other eye, he'd look out at, he wouldn't, and he'd look out at the crowd. And that way he was believable as speaking to the crowd. You get a teleprompter, you're speaking to this screen. You're speaking to that screen. You're speaking to this screen. You're just turning like this. Or you pull an Obama and have the teleprompter way down there and you're just like this. When I preach, I use a manuscript. I have the papers on the pulpit And I have to look down, obviously, but I'm looking here, I'm looking there, I'm looking over there. I see this person right there, that person back there. Don't go into politics, it's all fakery. The number of politicians I know of who I would trust with anything, I can count on the fingers of one hand. Living politicians. I'm just about to hit 21 minutes. I don't know why it come to me today to talk about public speaking, except that this is what I'm doing here. Now, I wouldn't be as silly in church preaching a sermon as I am on these videos, and I am not as precise and correct with my English here as I am when I preach a sermon. The two situations are different, but it's all public speaking. Whether I'm talking to 200 people or one camera where all I can see is my own face on the screen. It's public speaking. And as I said 2 or 3 times now, you'll probably never have to do it, but this is my channel. I get to do what I want, right? Okay. Have I bored y'all stiff? Have I bored y'all to tears? Are you wishing I would just shut my gob? I will. Cheers.